Welcome dear doctors, get ready to fire up your synapses for nervous system with Dr. Sayyida Sara in Anatomy Student Zone. I know when most of you will be studying nervous system, it makes you nervous, but relax, get ready to laugh, learn, maybe even twitch few reflexes along the way. In this video, we will learn the basic concepts about the cell of nervous system. In general, your nervous system is made up of your brain, spinal cord and nerves. There are the anatomical and functional division of nervous system that we will cover in detail in next video. But we will go through these divisions briefly before moving towards the main topic. Anatomically, the nervous system is divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system composed of cranial nerves which are emerging from brain, as the name indicates, cranial, and the spinal nerves which are coming from the spinal cord, and it also includes their associated ganglia. We will see later on what ganglia are. In this diagram, the anatomical division of the nervous system are shown. The central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. The cerebrum and the cerebellum, they are actually the part of brain. Now, while the peripheral nervous system is shown in this diagram as in thread-like yellow structures, which are the cranial and spinal nerves. Beside that, it also includes the ganglia, as I have already told you. Cranial nerves are the nerves which are directly emerging from brain, mainly from brain stem, and the brain stem includes medulla, midbrain, and the bones. Right now, we are not concerned related to all this. We will cover all this in neuro later on. But you should all have an idea that the cranial nerves are basically coming from brain stem. And point to remember is that they are not emerging from spinal cord. They play a very important role in controlling the various function of head and neck and some internal organs as well. These nerves are essential for the various sensory, motor and the autonomic functions in our body. And there are 12 pair of cranial nerves which are emerging from brain stem. As you can see in this diagram, we label or name them according to Roman numbers, which are from 1 to 12. And these are going to start from ophthalmic to hypoglossal. In this image, we can see the spinal cord, and there are the yellow structures emerging from the spinal cord. Also, that we name as in spinal nerves because they are coming from the spinal cord. And these spinal nerves are the part of the peripheral nervous system. Origin of the spinal nerve is also important to know. These spinal nerves are coming from the space between the adjacent vertebrae, which is known as the intervertebral foramina. And there are the 31 pairs of spinal nerve. We classify them into 5 regions depending upon their origin along the spinal cord, and these 5 regions are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and the coccygeal nerves. Spinal nerves are responsible for transmitting sensory and the motor signals between the spinal cord and the rest of the body. According to the functional division, the nervous system or how your nervous system is functioning, it consists of the sensory division, or it is also known as the afferent component, and the motor division, also known as efferent component. And the afferent component basically receives the sensory information from our skin, fascia, muscles. It's also receiving the information from our viscera, and then it transmits this information from the receptors to the central nervous system. While efferent or the motor component transmit this information from central nervous system to the rest of body, and this can transmit this information to the skeletal muscle. If they are the effector organ, the response will be voluntary response. And if it's transmitting these signals to the smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, or the glands, if they are the effector organ, response will be involuntary. The same is also shown in this example. You can see when we touch a hot object, afferent sends signal to the central nervous system, and efferent or the motor component transmit this information from the central nervous system to the skeletal muscle, and the response is withdrawal reflex. Similarly, afferent component also receives the information from the viscera, we can see, and then that sends signals to the central nervous system, and the efferent or the motor component transmit this information from central nervous system to structures or the organs that are not in our control, like cardiac muscles, or the smooth muscles or the glands. So the response will be involuntary response. Now we will move toward main topic and we'll discuss about the cells of nervous system. We all know our human body is made up of multiple cells. Similarly, nervous system is also made up of complex network of specialized cells and the tissue. The cells of the nervous system, they function to regulate and coordinate the activities of our body. There are the two main type of the cell present in the nervous system, which includes neuron and the glial cell. First we will cover neuron and the things relating to that, and later on I will cover glial cells. So neuron or the nerve cell, they are the main structural and the functional unit of nervous system. We can see there are the billion of neurons in the human body, and they transmit the electrical and the chemical signals throughout the nervous system. When we talk about the structure of neuron, you can see each neuron is having its body and a number of processes. They can be short or the long process, which are collectively named as neurites. The cell body or the soma is the main part of neuron. It contains a cellular organelles, and this is a part, it's important to remember, where the action potential is generated. While the process or neurites arise from the body of the neuron, and their main function is to connect the neurons with each other, with our body cells, and it also enables the flow of neuronal impulses. Neurites are of two types. We can name them as an axon and the dendrites. Axons are the long cylindrical extensions from the cell body, and axons conduct electrical impulses or action potential away from cell body. So A from axon and A from away from cell body, and it also transmitting the signals towards the muscle and other glands. While the dendrites are the short branching extensions of the cell body, and the dendrites receive the incoming signals from the other neurons or the sensory receptors. It is also very important to know regarding these things, like what are nuclei, ganglia, tract, or the nerve. Whenever these terms are going to be used in neuro or in the nervous system, you should have an idea. For this, make it clear that the cell body with the similar function, they are having tendency to group themselves together, and if these cell body group together in the central nervous system, we call them as a nuclei. And there are the many nuclei found throughout the brain and the spinal cord. For example, you can see in this diagram hypothalamic nuclei, dorsal and the ventral horn nuclei, and there are a lot of many nuclei also present in our whole brain and the spinal cord, or I can say central nervous system. Each nuclei have its specific function, and these nuclei play a role in regulating the various aspects of nervous system. If these same cell bodies, they group together and form a cluster outside the central nervous system, we call it as an ganglia. So we can see ganglia can be dorsal root ganglia or spinal ganglia and the autonomic ganglia. Ganglia are the collection outside the central nervous system. As I have told you, and we have seen that the cell bodies with a similar function, they are forming collection within the central nervous system or the outside the central nervous system, and we name them as a nuclei and the ganglia respectively. Similarly, the process from the cell body, they also group together in the form of a bundle, and we name these bundle as a tract if they are forming within the central nervous system. And the tracts are typically named according to their location, according to their function, or the structure they are going to connect. Tracts can be sensory or ascending, that's the same thing. They can be motor or descending, they can be association tracts, and they can be commissure fibers as well. So we name these bundle as a nerve if they are forming outside the brain and the spinal cord, or I can say the central nervous system. Nerves are important component of the peripheral nervous system, as we had seen that before as well. And there can be cranial nerve, spinal nerve. The nerves can also be sensory, motor, or the combination of the sensory and the motor nerve that we named as mixed nerve. It is important to remember that the white matter of your nervous system is made up of nerve fibers, and these nerve fibers are named as the white matter due to its pale appearance. That is because of a layer of fatty myelin that is covering that nerves. In contrast, the gray matter of the nervous system is darker and it consists of mostly of the cell bodies. So a nervous system whole, whether it's a central nervous system that includes our brain or the spinal cord, whole our brain and the spinal cord, they are having gray matter and the white matter. After covering the one cell in detail, we are moving towards another cell of the nervous system, which are known as the glial cells. And glial cells are also known as the neuroglia. Their main function is to provide the support to neuron, and they also maintain the neuronal function as well. It is important to remember that the glial cells, they don't propagate action potential. Basically, they are the not cells involved in action potential. There are the several type of glial cells. Each is having its specific function, and broadly we can classify them as a myelinating glial cell that support and protect the neurons, and the third type of glial cell are exclusively found in the CNS. These cells are not present in peripheral nervous system, while the first two, myelinated glia and the glial cell that are supporting and protecting neuron, they are present both in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. First, we will cover the myelinating glia. And the function of the myelinating glia is to produce myelin. Now, what the myelin is actually a fatty substance, and this forms a myelin sheath around the axon. And the function of this myelin sheath is to act as insulating layer, and it increases the speed and the conduction of the nerve impulses that are going through along the axon. So the myelinating glia, they are different in the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. In central nervous system, myelination is done mainly by the oligodendrocytes, and in peripheral nervous system, myelination is done by Schwann cells. In peripheral nervous system, it's also important to know that there are the myelinated and the unmyelinated nerve fibers present. So myelinated fibers have the sheath that is composed of the continuous series of the Schwann cell and that are going to surround that axon, and they are forming the myelin segments. While in unmyelinated fibers, the multiple nerve fibers are engulfed by a single Schwann cell and they are not producing myelin. So myelin is not produced in unmyelinated nerve fiber, although Schwann cells are there, but in the myelinated nerve fiber, the Schwann cell, they are producing myelin. You should also make this thing clear that the axon together with the myelin sheath is known as nerve fiber. So the velocity of conduction of an impulse whenever it's traveling along the axon, it increases with the diameter of that fiber. If the diameter of the axon is more, the velocity of conduction will more. The largest axon are also having the thickest myelin sheath and therefore the greatest external diameter they are having. On basis of this, we classify the peripheral nerve fiber according to their conduction velocity, which is generally proportion to the size of the nerve fiber. Mean more the nerve fiber size, more will be the conduction velocity. So here you can see the classification of peripheral nerve fiber is shown. We can see there are the three type of fiber, A, B, and the C. A and the B fibers, these are the myelinated fibers, while the C fiber, and these are unmyelinated one. Group A fibers are further divided into alpha, beta, gamma, and the delta fibers, depending upon their external diameter. The alpha fibers can be 1A or a 1B, beta and the gamma are type 2 fibers, while the delta are type 3 fibers. We can see the largest myelinated fibers may be motor or a proprioceptive, while the smallest fiber, they can be myelinated or unmyelinated. So the summary is the largest fiber are always myelinated, while the smallest fiber, they can be myelinated or they can be unmyelinated. And the function of the smallest fiber is autonomic function or the sensory function, while the largest fiber, they are having motor function or the proprioceptive function. Now we will cover another glial cell, and the function of these glial cell is to support the neurons and to protect these neurons. And these glial cell includes the astrocytes and the satellite cell. Astrocytes are present in the central nervous system, while the satellite cells, they are present in the peripheral nervous system. I had already told you about the third class of these glial cell, which are having exclusive function in a CNS. I mean, they are not present in the peripheral nervous system. And these cell include some microglia and the ependymal cell. Now we will see what's the function of microglia and what is the function of ependymal cell. The microglia are basically the phagocytic cells of the central nervous system. They are going to engulf, digest the cellular debris, that is, or the dead neurons, we can say. So the microglia contribute to the tissue repair. They also contribute towards the immune response regulation as well. While the ependymal cell line the ventricle system of the CNS. In CNS, you will see later on there are the ventricle located. These are the cavities of brain. So they produce the cerebrospinal fluid, and that is a clear fluid, and the function of this fluid is to cushion the brain and the spinal cord. So ependymal cell are lining these ventricles, which are the cavities of your brain. So hope you will be thinking, if the peripheral nervous system doesn't have the glia, which are equivalent to the microglia that were performing the function of the phagocytic function, how the phagocytic role is performed in the peripheral nervous system. You should remember this: in peripheral nervous system, this role is performed by macrophages. In nutshell, satellite cell and the Schwann cells are the glial cell that are found in peripheral nervous system, while microglia and the ependymal cell, oligodendrocyte, astrocytes, they are found in central nervous system. So that was all about the cells of the nervous system. In next video, I will talk about the domains of nervous system in detail, which includes the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to give me energy by liking and subscribing this video. Please hit on bell icon for the upcoming video. Thank you so much.